Hello, everybody, and welcome to a Thursday edition of the Falconcast. Welcome in. First off, I want to thank all of our great advertisers who sponsor the show. Phoenix on Westheimer, Midtown Bar and Grill, Dr. Linville. We got Piper's Plumbing. So a whole bunch of great people who have supported the show, and hopefully we'll continue to in the new year as we expand our network. Welcome, Flip. So today is AJ should be here any minute. I have not heard from him, but he will show up. He always does. So also I want to thank everybody who's supported us with donations. Please keep it up. The Venmo's on there, and hope everyone had a great Christmas. And without further ado, let's bring in the legend, AJ Hoffman. What's up, brother?
Howdy, Freddie. How you doing, man?
Pretty damn good. How was your Christmas? I got to say, that photo of you guys, you look like some kind of model family.
Oh, I don't know about that, but yeah, it was it was a good Christmas.
Maybe not mullet man, but you know.
Yeah, most model families don't have a kid with a flowing mullet. But yeah, it was a good Christmas. Everybody had a good time, and actually, my older boy wanted to go to Houston. That's what he wanted for his Christmas gift. So he's actually in Houston now, hanging with his old buddies from there. So
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's too bad Dad didn't come to supervise. We could get into some mischief while he's doing that.
would have been nice. It's but it's a pretty key time in the sports world right now. Hard for Dad to get away, as you know.
Yeah. Right now, I mean, probably February after the Super Bowl, though.
Yeah, sure, why not? Yeah. But as long as before March.
Yeah. Once you get into March, forget it. But yeah, so that's pretty cool, man. I didn't do anything. I stayed home all day with the dog, and all my neighbors thought I was pathetic, so they brought me food, so I didn't have to do anything.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not pathetic. I just don't want to be around anybody. I just want to sit here and watch sport and watch.
I thought when I turned on the stream, I heard you talking about like taking donations. I thought that was for your Christmas gifts, for like more booze.
Oh no, I got overloaded with that. Believe me, I have enough booze. I have enough vodka I have all the vodka. So.
You own it. You like my wife's watched Netflix. You have the vodka.
Yeah. And, my neighbor who comes over sometimes brings his dog over, plays with Kira, and he's a really cool guy. But he came over a couple of weeks ago because he was out of alcohol and wound up drinking a lot of my vodka. So my Christmas gift was like 3 times what he drank and some other stuff. So
I think I've become the person who, like, the easiest thing to do when people shop for me is just get me a bottle of bourbon or mezcal.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. Like that's been like it's gone on like 3 years where that's what just people give me for gifts. And my wife thinks it's like overkill and I've got more whiskey than I know what to do with, but it's not like it's going to go bad. There's no expiration date on it. So might as well, keep it coming, baby.
Keep being stocked. In fact, that's the other thing. I had like 3 bottles of bourbon and I think 5 bottles of vodka for Christmas. I'm happy. Some of that was my birthday too. So, but that was it. It was pretty cool, and just watched a lot of sport and behaved for the most part, except for the night after Christmas was a friend of mine's birthday and way overdid it and woke up in my bathtub. So,
ooh, both kidneys still intact?
Yes, it was my bad.
Okay, all right.
So that's a plus. But I know my tactical error was when I got home. I was pretty drunk, but then I ate half an edible, and after that, it's a total blackout.
Yeah. I wanted to let you know one of my Christmas gifts was a hockey jersey.
Oh, really?
So I'm the proud owner of a Golden Knights jersey now. I don't remember the last time I owned a jersey with a sports player's name on the back, but I've got one now, and I'm officially a Las Vegan. That's how you know. If you've got a Knights jersey, you're officially in.
Yeah, whose name's on the back?
Jonathan Marchessault.
Yeah, that's who I was going to guess. That's a good one. So I would want him or Eichel, I think, would be my other choice.
Yeah, cool. So it was a nice gift. So I thought you'd appreciate it. That I've got I'm a hockey guy now.
Now I like it. Took you a while to get there. You just had to have the world champion.
Just had to
in your yard.
Town. Yeah.
Welcome him, Chuck D and Joel and Pellyrat and Rolando. I hope you guys are having a great day. I hope all you guys had a terrific Christmas as well. And for those of you who don't,
especially Pellyrat.
Oh, Pelly's been with all these guys have been with us for a long time. So, how'd your sport betting go over the last week or so?
It's been up and down, man. There's some it's funny, like the bowl season has been so weird. Well, first of all, the NFL's continued to be awesome. I've on the Dream Preview, I'm picking five games a week, and I'm hitting 70% on the season, which is, I mean, it's unheard of. I don't know how long I can keep it up.
I've never heard anybody do that for a full season.
But so I'm 55-24 this season. And if you go back to last year, I was 58-34. So I'm like 66% over the last 2 years, 5 sides a week. So my NFL has been awesome. College football has been a roller coaster because like all this steam comes and then it doesn't matter. Like,
right.
And if you've got closing line value, it doesn't matter. I think this morning's a great example. I played SMU -10 pretty early in the cycle. Played that in the under, and today, early this morning before the game, it steamed up to SMU -13. So there's tons of money coming in on SMU. They get blown out. So it's like I'm sitting there with a -10, and people were paying -13 for substantial amounts of money.
Right.
And so I was feeling good, and none of us were ever close. So it's weird, man. Yesterday was actually a good day because yesterday was an easy day to pick out motivation, and all the teams that were motivated showed up. With, I think the exception being Louisville, and USC. I said, man, there's no way that you're talking about Lincoln Riley doesn't have some quarterback ready to go. Like there's some badass quarterback who was just waiting for Caleb Williams to leave. That. And sure enough, Miller Moss was that dude. But everybody else, it was like Tulane was a dead cat, obviously.
Yeah.
Texas A&M had nothing. And then on the first play from scrimmage, they lose their quarterback.
Right.
I mean, so it was yesterday was pretty easy money. But it's a crapshoot, man. You can't bet big on these bowl games. I really believe that because there's guys who are going to opt out right before the game. Another great example, all that money that came in on UNLV right before the Kansas game, and everybody was like, Jason Bean's not going to play. He quit. He cut the middle. He cut warm up short. All the other quarterbacks kept throwing, and he just went over to the sideline and was just wearing a T-shirt. And it's like, he's not playing. UNLV money pours in. He plays and throws 6 touchdowns. Like,
I know.
What are you going to do? So it's wild, man. You've got to be careful with these because they're not telling anybody. Like I was so angry when Jeff Traylor was like, it's the best kept secret in the history of San Antonio.
Yeah.
Frank Harris wasn't playing. It's like, well, thanks, asshole. I mean, it worked out in that one case, but I mean, they've got no reason to tell you who's going to play. And if you can't handicap games without knowing who's playing the games, and that makes it very difficult.
Yeah, I've only I faded Tulane, I faded Rice were my 2 plays, and worked out. Those worked out. I haven't really been hammering the bowls for that reason. I just think there's too many question marks, and sometimes it's really clear, but it hasn't been this year because there's been a lot more opt-outs and key opt-outs. And, and that changes everything. And you're right, you can't really follow the money because it's not telling you anything.
Well, listen. So today, I mean, Kansas State everybody's opted out. Like they don't have their quarterbacks opted out, their wide receivers are opted out, their running backs, safeties, corners, tight ends, linemen, their offensive coordinators gone to Texas A&M. They've taken money today. Like, what?
Yeah,
why?
exactly.
So I can't for the life of me like say I know where the market's going to go on these games because I just don't. It has literally been a crapshoot on which way these markets are going to move, which way, like who decides what player is so important. And I think it's harder in college than the NFL to gauge like how much these players are worth. And a good example is Florida State, who is it's not even this doesn't look like the Florida State team you saw in the regular season. Not just like the Jordan Travis thing, but like
right.
Nobody's playing. But at what point do you at what point do you say, okay, I'll play Georgia or I'll play Florida State? Like when it's now up to 20.
Yeah,
Like,
and Georgia's got a bunch of guys out too. This
right.
isn't
And
exactly the
what's
same Georgia team.
what this Georgia team that's won back-to-back national championships, are they like super motivated to play in a game that means nothing? Those are really tough handicaps, man. Like I've got no appetite to buy into Florida State even at 20,
Right.
but and also I don't know how great I'd feel if I had Georgia minus 15 in my pocket. So that
Yeah.
tells you about how the season's or how the bowl season's gone. So it's hard to get a jump on these things, man.
All right. I want to welcome in a few new folks. Spirit J's here. Lonzetta's here. Bird Gang, welcome. BC. Good crew today. Let's have some fun. And I need to tell you real quickly about Midtown Bar and Grill. 415 West Gray. We'll be there Mondays, every show. Although no show this Monday, we're going to move it to Tuesday because I think we'll all have better stuff to do on Monday watching football. And
Nursing hangovers.
Yeah, nursing hangovers and things like that. But we will be there on Tuesday, so make your plans, and I'll put together a really cool guest list. And I can't remember who it was early in the chat, but a lot of people have been asking about bringing back porn star deaths. I promise you, through football, we'll bring back a couple of the fun things we did. But right now, I mean, we go over just talking football.
Yeah.
And and there's always going to be sports to talk about, and that's always going to drive it. But it would be fun to play Guess the Porn Star Death again. And I actually know a porn star. So anyway,
I know.
yeah. So but go over to Midtown Bar and Grill, say hello to Tommy. Great food, great selection of food, and just a terrific atmosphere of good people. So, all right. Want to start with NFL, or you want to get these other college games knocked out that we didn't do last week? It's up to you.
Oh, baby, I'm ready for some football chatter. I should be still good.
Okay, so
I can hear you.
Okay, yeah, I lost you for a second there. So where do you want to start with? Rest of these college games or NFL?
Yeah, might as well. We're in that. Might as well hit up the rest of the college.
Yeah, because we got one coming up before the show ends at NC State, Kansas State, which you just talked about a little bit. Yeah, what do you do with that? I mean,
I'm locked in on NC State. I liked NC State. I said this is a team that's motivated. They've got a chance to win 10 games. The idea that everybody's out on Kansas State, like I just don't understand why you'd want to back them. This was a team that died down the stretch. After they lost that game to Texas, which was a tough break, tough loss for them, you could tell they were just kind of done because it looked like they were going to be playing in a pretty big time bowl. Now they're playing in the fucking Pop-Tart Bowl. Like they legitimately had a chance to be like playing in the Orange Bowl this season, and they're in the Pop-Tart Bowl. So it's not an ideal situation for Kansas State. But again, I mean, the way the market's moving, I don't know. It took it on to a key number 3. I'd still, I mean, if I had 0 bets in pocket right now, I would bet North Carolina State +3.
What do you think about the money line +125?
I love it. I thought all along I think the wrong team is favored here. So, but again, I'm one dude, and I'm not betting 20,000 aside on these games. So those are the guys who are deciding which way the line moves. And normally you respect those guys, but I think a lot of guys, they think they know a lot more than they know during this bowl season, and I think nobody really knows shit.
Yeah, and they've been wrong a lot so far.
Yep.
So, all right. So next one up is Arizona and Oklahoma. Arizona's been a moneymaker all year, but again, I mean, I think we're in a different kind of spot here. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, so to me, this was interesting because I bet this early. I bet Arizona -2.5, and I bet the over at 62.5. Unfortunately, since then, Jeff Levy decided to leave, and that dropped the total 3 points. So at least in that scenario, I understand why I've got a bad number. The offensive coordinator's gone. So for Oklahoma, so of course the total should drop. Dylan Gabriel's gone, which I already knew when I made that bet that he was going to be gone. But without the OC, I understand it. But some money's come in on Oklahoma today as well. I liked Arizona. I was on Arizona. Listen, you and I talked about Arizona a lot in the later half of the season. They were a cash cow. You could not bet Arizona and lose money for about a 6-week span. I think this team is really good. I think they're well coached. And I think that this is like a program building game for Arizona. This is a chance for people to say, oh, they beat Oklahoma in a bowl game. I think recruits on the West Coast will look at that and be excited about it. Whereas for Oklahoma, this is a chance to have a couple more practices before they start playing SEC teams.
Right.
So I think Arizona takes this game more seriously. But again, there's moving parts as usual. And someone in the chat says tease State and Arizona. Don't tease college football, particularly don't tease bowl games. Like you want to tease games that have the least variance possible, and bowl games are like the most variance games because all it takes is one team, like a team doesn't want to play a little bit and they lose by 30. So I highly recommend against teasing any bowl games.
I agree with you 100% on that because there's such a variance in these things that we talked about it at the beginning of the show, and you never know which team's going to come out and actually be motivated. And you see a lot of teams go out and get to a big lead, and then it's just over. Yeah. The other guys are already thinking about the beach. So
look at the A&M game yesterday. One play in, their quarterback's, I don't know if his arm's broken or what the hell it was, but his arm was in a air cast, and like they were already down 7-0 after the first play from scrimmage for Oklahoma State. Did A&M want to be there anymore? I don't think so.
No. All right, Clemson and Kentucky. I'm seeing Kentucky +4 right now.
Yeah, I lean to Kentucky here. This is a tough game though. I assume Kentucky's more excited about this matchup. Clemson had high hopes coming into the season, and they didn't reach them. So to me, from a motivation standpoint, this is Kentucky, but Clemson's got better players, and sometimes that's what it boils down to: is who's got better players. The opt-outs, there's NFL opt-outs for both teams. The thing that probably will keep me off of this is Clemson, despite all the opt-outs, they probably have guys who are going to play in the NFL eventually who have been sitting on the bench and are now like Kentucky. If they've got NFL guys, they've been on the field. Places like Clemson, they've got NFL guys who haven't seen the field yet.
Oregon State and your favorite team on the planet, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
This is the opt-out bowl. Nobody wants to play in this game. I honestly, the total in this game seems outrageous to me. I don't know where points come from. These are, this is going to be the rock fight of rock fights. No quarterbacks. This is just going to be a grind. And we saw Oregon State wants to run the ball all the time anyway. Notre Dame's difficult to run against, but Oregon State's not going to stop trying. And without Sam Hartman, Notre Dame could barely move the ball with Sam Hartman. Yeah. Now you're asking them to move him without him. So if you can get 41 or 41 and a half, whatever, I think that's a lot of points in a game that I think is just a grind.
Iowa State is a 10.5 point favorite over Memphis. I kind of lean Memphis here. I think this is a team that's I don't see Iowa State beating anybody by 10.5 for one thing, and Memphis can put up points, and I think they can keep it closer than 10.5. Yeah,
my beef with Memphis is, well, first of all, the good thing if you like Memphis is this is in their hometown. This is the Liberty Bowl, so this is basically a home game. Although Iowa State they travel well, they'll have their allotment, and that's a big deal. But man, when you look through Memphis's schedule and you say, well, how they do against good teams? What are their big wins?
Right.
And they never win those games. They beat up on Charlotte and South Florida and UAB and Boise before Boise figured things out. They beat Navy, but when they went against Tulane, didn't show up. I guess in hindsight, the loss to Mizzou was a good loss.
Yeah.
And then they lost to SMU, lost to I guess that's it. But I just don't know now against another Power 5 school while they've got opt-outs. Not sure if I want to back Memphis here, but I'm with you. Iowa State's not the kind of team that I'm like looking to lay double digits with. That's just not how they're built. It's not really what they do. So this is probably a stay away for me. I think we saw Iowa State was just a roller coaster at the end of the year, and winning at Kansas State was a great win. Losing against Kansas, backup quarterback, wasn't ideal. So they had some good ones and some bad ones down the stretch. So I think I'm staying away from this one. I've seen enough inconsistency from Iowa State not to want to lay double digits.
Yeah, I am going to play Memphis in this one at that price. Missouri and Ohio State. Boy, this is another one where you gotta figure out the motivation.
Well, the motivation angle to me is clear. Missouri wants to be here. They want to play. Everybody's in for Missouri. It's actually not even close. Like I think, like Eli Drinkwitz said, that everybody's going to play except for Rakestraw, their cornerback who got injured.
Yeah,
and they've got a linebacker. I can't remember his name, but he got injured. But everybody who's available to play is playing. That's huge for Ohio State. Kyle McCord's gone. I can't imagine Marvin Harrison's opted out. Michael Hall's opted out. Mayan Williams opted out, although he hasn't played in a while. I saw that Travion Williams is going to play. I mean, okay, maybe that brings some of the other guys around, but like, is Emeka Abuka going to play? Like, these are guys who are potential first round draft picks. And if they're going to play, maybe they play for a little while. Does Cade Stover play? Does Josh Proctor play? Like, they've got a lot of guys on defense that I'm not sure if they're going to play or not. What I know is Mizzou wants this bad. This is the Super Bowl for Missouri. And remember, Missouri gave Georgia everything they could handle.
Yeah.
I was wrong about this Missouri team at the beginning of the season. They are legit. They've been hammering the transfer portal. They are going to be very good next year. So if you don't want to bet on this game now, bet on Mizzou. Whatever their season win total is next year, bet it over. They got the easiest schedule in the SEC. This is going to be a content. They'll be a playoff team next year, in my opinion. So I like the way Mizzou's trending. Ohio State, I don't. So now I can, and again, this line's moved against my thought. It was a pick a while ago, and now you can get 4.5, 5 points with Mizzou. I'll take it. I'll take points with Mizzou. I think this team wants to be there. I think this is absolutely their home run spot. And Ohio State can talk all they want about, we're excited to be here. They're not excited to be here. I don't believe it. I don't believe they want to be playing on the Cotton Bowl on December 29th.
Yeah, and Missouri has a fat kicker too, which is always fun.
That's true. That's a bonus.
Ole Miss and Penn State. I gotta think Lane Kiffin is gonna have something for Penn State here.
I like the over in this game, and kind of like what you said about what Lane Kiffin's got. Lane Kiffin is like the wildest wild card to begin with, and then you put him in a bowl setting.
Yeah,
like I imagine what's over under on 4th down attempts for Lane Kiffin, like 3.5. Like I don't know,
yeah.
But so when you have games like that, I think it ups the variance of what can happen to the side or the total, or to the side. But I think the total is going to go up. I think you're looking at a total that they're going to go over, because if you get the 4th down, you keep the drive moving, you score points. If you don't get the 4th down, it's a short field. And we've seen Drew Aller, who the big knock on Drew Aller when they were lost to Ohio State and Michigan was he can't go down the field. Ever since then, he's been willing to go down the field. Now in a game where they've got really nothing to lose, I'm guessing he's going to go downfield, and you can beat Ole Miss downfield. So I think there's a lot of points scored in this game. I think the sort of the questions about how wild Lane Kiffin's going to be makes this an over game.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And okay, so we move on to Auburn and Maryland. I don't have a ton of interest in this game. I don't
either. So Talia Tagovailoa being out is a big deal. He's a good player, but I don't want to lay a touchdown with Auburn. I've got no interest in that. I think that this isn't a very good offense. I think they're missing three starting guys on defense who they're not expecting to play because of opt-outs, like NFL opt-outs. I don't trust this team. Maryland is their offense was so good this year, but that's how much of that was Tonga Vailoa. So,
Right.
And I don't know very much about the backup quarterback. Like they've said that it's this guy Billy Edwards who had like 40 snaps this year, but then they have some freshmen that they want to work in. I don't know enough to know anything, so I'm staying totally away from this game.
Yeah, and the other thing about Auburn is they were high variance all year. I mean, they played
Yep.
great games against Georgia and Alabama, and then there were games where they were just terrible. So, and we already talked about Georgia.
So
Florida State,
when you say they played games that were just terrible, like, are you talking about losing to New Mexico State? Because that's pretty.
that would be one. That would be one.
At home by 3 touchdowns. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty terrible.
Yeah, as a huge favorite. Yeah, that's probably what I was thinking of. But we talked about Georgia and Florida State already. I think so. Then we've got, before we get into the last of the really big games, we have Toledo and Wyoming.
I like Wyoming. Anything under a field goal. And really, it boils down to this. Craig Bowl announced that he's going to retire after the game, and usually when you've got a retiring head coach, players want to play for it. There's one guy, like a cornerback who transferred, went to Vanderbilt, and I think they've got an offensive lineman who had surgery, and he's not going to play. Everybody else is in. That tells me this team's motivated. Daquan Finn is in the transfer portal. So, I mean, he's been the reason why Toledo, we talked about them. They were the only team in the MAC who had real consistency throughout the year at quarterback.
Right.
And that was enough to let them be a contender in the MAC. Now having Tucker Gleason get the start, I saw a little bit of him. He's not very good. I don't like this Wyoming team, but I do think from a motivation standpoint, it's not close. And I've got no idea why I should expect anything from Toledo's offense without Finn. I played the under as well. So I like Wyoming and the under here.
All right. We got Wisconsin and LSU. And this is another interesting one.
Yeah. Braylon Allen opts out. That's kind of the start and I don't want to say the finish, but it's a huge deal. I mean, he is an absolute beast, and he's playing on Sundays. And then their backups, the backup running backs are hurt. So I think they're going to be pretty thin at running back and wide receiver. Jaden Daniels isn't going to play, obviously, for LSU. And the question for them is, I don't know if Malik Neighbors is going to play. I don't know if Brian Thomas is going to play. So if this LSU offense is a shell of what it was in the regular season, and their defense is the same, although one of their starting corners is out, which makes it even worse, I don't want to back LSU. It's hard to get involved with a team that was all offense, no defense, and now they're missing their offense. I mean, every LSU fan in the world said Jaden Daniels should win the Heisman because this is a bad team without him, and now they don't have him. So should we expect a bad team? LSU fan will say no now that Jaden Daniels has a Heisman, but I think probably you should expect a pretty bad team here.
Yeah, I tend to agree. All right, this is one of my favorite games on the docket. Liberty getting 16.5 against Oregon. Get your thoughts first.
A lot of Liberty transfers, more than I would have expected. Mostly they're guys in the secondary, pretty key guys, and they've got some guys banged up as well. But I mean, obviously, I think the real question is who's going to play for Oregon. I've heard Bo Nix is going to play. I've heard Bucky Irving's going to play. If they play, I don't know about Tez Johnson. He'd be big too. If those guys play for Oregon, they're going to blow out this Liberty team. Liberty has not seen a team with a pulse all season long, and if Bo Nix plays, then that tells me Oregon cares, and if Oregon cares, they're going to kick the shit out of Liberty. This isn't like I know Liberty had this great season. they're not ready for this. They are not. They're not nearly as good as their record says they are because they played one of the weakest schedules in the country. If Oregon shows up for this game, they're going to dog stomp this Liberty team.
I think Oregon's second string would dog stomp them.
You might be right.
And the thing about this, usually I'm the guy saying, "Oh, this is the small guy, getting a bunch of points against the big team." It's like the thing about Oregon is, yeah, they thought they were going to be a playoff team, and they're probably a little pissed because they don't the Washington games, even if they split those, they're in the playoff.
Yep.
And as good as Bo Nix is, this is a system team. This is a well-coached team. And I think that, I hope Bo Nix plays. If he does, they're going to win by 30. It's not going to be close. They just have better athletes, and they're going to stomp a hole in them, in my opinion.
Well, and I mean, what you just said holds some weight. Like when you think about Oregon's backups, like how many of these guys that play for Liberty would be on scholarship at Oregon? I can't imagine a whole lot of them.
All right, moving on to Iowa and Tennessee. I'll be honest, I have no interest in any game Iowa's involved in.
Oh, I fell asleep just thinking about that game.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this was one that I got in early on. I got the under on this game, and since I played the under, Joe Milton opted out. Running back, their starting running back Jalen Wright opted out. Obviously, they've been without Brew McCoy for a good chunk of the season. They're gonna be without some offensive line guys. Under was the play even before that. I mean, this is going to be the grindiest of grinds. Tennessee's offense, I said all season long, was overrated. People looked at last season and said, "Oh, it's the system," but the difference between Hendon Hooker and Joe Milton was just night and day. They're not the same kind of player and couldn't run the offense the same kind of way. And now, they're going to be starting a freshman quarterback that I'll be honest, I don't know much about. Maybe he's good, maybe he's not. I'm not really sure. But against this Iowa defense, who, listen, Iowa wouldn't be playing on January 1st if they didn't have a fantastic defense because the rest of their team is dog shit.
Yeah, their defense has been fantastic because that offense, we've talked about it all year.
It's the worst offense in the country.
Yeah.
And that's not hyperbole. It's like statistically the worst offense in the country. But so I don't worry about them scoring. But I think Tennessee has a hard time doing it as well.
Yeah, I'm seeing 35.5 right now is the number.
It's hard to play those kind of numbers, but I want nothing to do with anything that says over next to an Iowa game. Like you've seen some numbers that were like made you feel like you're a sucker if you don't play the over on these Iowa games, and you've lost because that's just what they do. They go under, they go under, they go under. I played the game at 36.5. So apparently the starting quarterback and the starting running back for Tennessee are worth 1.5 to the total.
Oh, boy. All right. Alabama, Michigan. We get into the big dogs here. Your thoughts on that one?
I think Alabama's the better team. I think we saw some flaws in this Michigan team all season long, and they were able to win when it mattered. And a lot of it was they were dealing with They were dealing with some coaching issues, ins and outs, and to their credit, they got good coaching when Harbaugh was out. But this is an Alabama team that's peaking at the right time. Everybody who wanted to make an argument against Texas said if Texas played Alabama now, they'd have no chance. They're too good right now. And Alabama, they might be, but Alabama went out and took care of business against Georgia, who I think is a better version of Michigan. So I think Alabama at any dog number is a good deal.
I agree 100%. And, all those people saying, hey, if Alabama played Texas now, it'd be different. Well, we might get to find out because I think Texas is going to beat Washington. I think Washington could cover. So this is probably a no-play game for me, but I do like the Longhorns to advance.
I do too. I played the over in this game. That was the first thing that jumped out to me was the over. So I think there's a lot of points scored in this game. I think that the thing about Texas is defensively, you cannot run the ball against them. They are absolutely elite. They're probably the best run defense in the country. But that doesn't really matter to Washington. They're going to chuck it around and they're going to have some success. And I think Texas is going to be able to chuck it around and have some success. I will say Xavier Worthy, who after the Big 12 title game was walking around on crutches, that's worrisome. I mean, he's a big piece of what they do. Not that they don't have depth, but Sarkisian said that he believes he's going to play. So again, he might be a total liar. It's entirely possible. And one thing I thought was interesting was Malik Murphy transferring, which you don't see very often. You don't see even backup quarterbacks transfer when your team's got a chance to win a national championship. I guess like the portal window was only so much. He saw the writing on the wall. He wasn't going to be the number 2 next year. So, and he ends up at Duke. But that means that Arch Manning, if there is some sort of injury or whatever, Arch Manning has to be the backup, less experienced. But at that point, you're splitting hairs. I think there's a lot of points in this game. I think Texas does enough to get there. Again, now 4.5. I think the number's right on the side. So I do think Texas wins. I think they win by a field goal or 4 points, and I think we get that Texas-Alabama rematch.
All right, before we get to the NFL, I got to tell you about Piper's Plumbing, 832-632-2583. And you want to talk about a great business run by great people. They are fantastic. They're based down in the League City area, but give them a call because they can take care of everything for you. Water line repair, water heater replacement, any kind of plumbing. And you're going to need it at some point, guys. I hate to tell you. At some point, you need a plumber. And think about how many times you've gotten a plumber and you're like, wow, this guy's not very good. Well, that's not what you're going to get with Piper's Plumbing. You're going to get the best. Whether you got a drain clog or blockage, faucets, all of it. They take care of it for you. They practice safely. They're reliable. And they use quality products. 832-632-2583 for Piper's Plumbing. All right, on to the – sorry, go ahead.
Let me give you one quick bowl note now that it looks like Miami has done the deed and they are not going to win this bowl game. Miami is maybe – they're one of the worst bowl runs ever. They are now 1-11 straight up in bowl games since 2006. They are 2-10 ATS in bowl games since 2006. If you're betting Miami in bowl games, I'm sorry, you're homeless.
Fail.
This is what a disaster and what a no-show today. We talked about this on SOV. Like, do you think this team from Florida with no quarterback, no skill guys wanted to go up to New York and play in the cold and the rain? I don't think so, and it looks like absolutely they didn't want to.
And listen, I said this when I was doing the national show when they hired Cristobal there. I said he's not a good hire. That team's never going to get anywhere under him because he's
a great recruiter, but he's a dope.
Well, he's a dope, and he had every advantage at Oregon and couldn't. I mean, he had good seasons, but those are teams that should have been elite. And now you're going to go to Miami and be elite? I don't think so.
Yeah.
A couple of folks to welcome in. Lamont's here. Always good to see Lamont.
Hello there, Lamont.
And he's saying, hindsight, OU beating Texas was probably a solid. If Texas were 1, they would be facing Bama in the first game. That's probably true. Welcome in Potch Gaming as well. And we move on to the NFL. I wanted to get to, first off, the Texans last week. Not really showing much, but that game in hindsight doesn't really matter. If they win the last 2, they're making the playoffs. I think it's going to be a little difficult here.
Yeah, I'm curious how you feel about this. RJ and I were on different sides of this coin last night when we did the Dream Pod. Like, to me, the idea that CJ Stroud missed a second game is almost like a good sign to me. Like, that means he's had another week to recover. RJ said, well, if it's a 2-week concussion, that means it was like a super severe concussion. I guess you can look at it both ways. But I think getting Stroud back gives them obviously a boost on the field because their backups are not good. But I think it gives them a boost emotionally. I think he is the heartbeat of this team. And I think if he comes back, this is against a Tennessee Titans team. I know Vrabel's teams aren't going to quit, but they don't have anything to play for. All their best players are either traded away or on IR on defense. I feel like the Texans, what we saw last week was the Browns defense overwhelmed their backup quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And the Browns are going to do that to a lot of teams. Like the Browns, whatever you think about their quarterback situation, the Browns are very, very good. But I think this is a good spot to buy back in on the Texans.
I agree. And I think that CJ coming back, I think they saw this, and I think they're smart enough to have seen it this way, that the Browns game would have been nice to win, but if they're really going to make the playoffs, they've got to beat the Colts.
You got to win the division.
Well, they don't even necessarily win the division. I think because they have all the tiebreakers, they win the last two, they're in the wild card.
Yeah.
Because all the other teams they're competing with, they've beaten the Bengals, the Steelers, all those teams. So, because I think the Browns are in, and then
the Bills are in.
Bills are in. Those two are in, but there's one spot left, and they have the tiebreaker over everybody in that scenario.
I think this is a good over game too, because I think we've started to see some cracks in the Texans defense. It was they run a good scheme. Obviously, they're well coached, but they just don't have very good players on that side of the ball yet. Not enough really good players on that side of the ball. And I think Levis over Tannehill, like assuming Levis plays, I like the over in this game. On a fast track, getting CJ Stroud back, I think there's a lot of points.
Yeah, I think Will Anderson's kind of the key for the Texans because they have missed him big time.
No doubt.
So because that, the pass rush, it's there, but he ties up so many guys on that line that it frees.
He makes Grenard look so good. But if you take away one of those guys, what's the other going to be? I mean, it's how we used to see this happen with Clowney. When there was someone on the other side of Clowney, it was great. If J.J. Watt was hurt and it was just Jadeveon over there, you could stop that guy.
Yeah, and we saw it a little bit. I think that he's just such a key to collapsing the line. And I know a lot of people keep telling me, "Oh, he's not that good. He's not that good." It's like you really have to.
I think he's pretty good.
You just have to watch him play. Watch the replay and just watch him play. All right, Jets at the Browns. Jets getting 7.5. Boy, what a cute story early on for the Jets, but now I don't know.
I think the Jets defense, the Jets defense was so good early in the season, and I said this on our pod last week, Fred. I said it's concerning that the Jets gave up 30 points to the Dolphins when the Dolphins were missing half their offensive line. They were missing Tyreek Hill, and they still had their way with that Jets defense. I said, man, that tells me the Jets defense is tired. And then they went out and let Washington torch them. Yeah. Washington's offense, which is has been in the beginning of the season, they were solid. The last 6 weeks, they've been like a 13, 14 point per game team. They put up 28 on this Jets defense. The Browns are chucking the ball around, man. Joe Flacco's, the turnovers are going to be there, but he's not scared. Going over 300 yards 3 games in a row, that's surprising. I think that they chuck the ball around some. I think the Jets defense is tired. I think that this is a Browns game on the wrong side of 7. I'm less interested. But it's the only side I'd look at. I think the Jets are done.
I agree 100%. And like you said, with Flacco, he threw some picks, but the guy was amazing last week. Lions getting 5.5 at Dallas.
I don't believe in the Lions. I certainly don't believe in them to the extent that the market does. Just when I thought they were kind of getting fairly priced after the Bears loss, they reeled off 2 more wins, including a game that if Nick Mullins doesn't throw 4 picks last week, they lose outright. And I think Dallas coming off back-to-back losses where they greatly underperformed on offense on the road, I think this is a bounce-back spot for Dallas. All they've done is put up big numbers. They've hit 30 in every game this season at home. Meanwhile, the Lions D on the road, yuck. Nick Mullins, 24 points and over 400 yards. The Bears and the Saints put up 28. Those are bad offenses. The Chargers put up 38. The Ravens put up 38. Dallas's team total sitting at 29.5. One of my favorite bets this week, Dallas team total over 29.5. I think they're undervalued coming off losses to 2 high-end AFC teams, which is something we talked about last week. The AFC is just better. The top of the AFC is just better than the top of the NFC. Last week proved it. But Dallas back at home against an NFC team, I think they put up some big numbers against this Detroit team.
Yeah, I like that. But, I kind of put these teams in the sort of in the same boat. They're really good, but they are not going to beat good teams. And then we kind of saw that last week when they played Miami. It was the AFC like that versus them. I think the Lions are in the same boat. I just think the Cowboys are better. Before we get on,
Well, especially at home, they're better.
Before we get on to these next ones, our office football pool, you're dominating this thing for the season.
Let's go.
Yeah, I think you're going to win. I actually won. Won a pool last week. So.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I was the one. I was the one that had one game to go and I lost it. So it was going to be me and you splitting the pot. So
well, thank you for that because that extra $100 helped.
There you go.
But yeah, you're gonna win the whole thing. I think. I mean, unless you just fall apart, which I don't see happening the way you're growing on the NFL right now. Okay, so next up on the list we have Atlanta and the Bears. Could you imagine the Bears being 3-point favorites over anybody earlier in the year?
Well, I can't imagine it today.
Yeah,
like everybody thinks these Bears are some kind of new team. Like they're playing hard, but they haven't beat anybody worth a shit. And now you're asking them to lay a field goal. I'm not thrilled about Atlanta outdoors, but I think a lot of their road woes were Desmond Ridder related, and he's not playing. The Bears are banged up right now. Cole Kmet banged up, Darnell Mooney banged up, starting center Lucas Patrick banged up. I don't think any of those guys are going to play. DJ Moore missed almost the entire game last week with an ankle injury. I don't know if he's going to play. And you can't really run on Atlanta. Like that's whatever you want to say about Atlanta. Their run defense has been legit all year. So if you're asking, you're saying, okay, you're gonna beat me with your arm, Justin Fields. I'll take my chances getting the field goal. Again, I hate this Atlanta team as much as anybody.
Yeah.
But Chicago -3 doesn't make sense. They have been they have not been a good favorite anyway. I don't want this team as a favorite.
Yeah, Atlanta's in my box of hate. I mean,
they are for sure.
I've thrown them in there a long time ago. All right, Patriots getting 12.5 at the Bills. I just can't see this Patriots team getting anywhere near them, but that's an awful lot of points, even for Buffalo at home.
So the Bills are 6-2 straight up, 5-3 ATS against the Patriots post Brady. The average cover margin ATS has been plus 4.5 points per game on the line. Their average straight up margin has been 14 points per game. That's counting in the losses. So they've lost twice and they've blown them out by enough in the games that they didn't lose that they're still 14 points per game better since Brady's left. I think the Bills had their flat spot last week against the Chargers. It wasn't a surprise. They came off that gauntlet of Dallas and Kansas City and Philly. We knew they'd be in a flat spot, and they were. I don't think this is a flat spot anymore. I think this is a Josh Allen game because New England is solid against the run. It's going to be hard to run on them. So I think Josh Allen chucks it around here. And remember last year after the DeMar Hamlin game, this was the Week 18 game that,
right.
I mean, a lot of Bills players said they didn't even want to play in, and they still smashed these Patriots at home. This is a lesser version of the Patriots right now. Micah Hyde back at practice, that's big, but even bigger, Daquan Jones, who's been out for feels like 7 to 8 weeks.
Yeah,
he's back to being a full participant. And for the Patriots, Jabril Peppers, who's top 3 safety in the league, still out with a hamstring. I don't expect him to play. I just think this is already a beat up Patriots secondary. Now you're going to take away the best player in it. I think Josh Allen just torches these guys, and the Patriots, they're just not built to play from behind. So they get down 10 early. What are they going to do? Are they going to throw the ball around with Bailey Zappi? I don't think so.
Yeah, and Lamont, that ATS means against the spread. So there you go.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes we forget. I mean, so Miami and Baltimore only a 3-point favorite. And I know Miami's coming off the win over Dallas. The only thing that worries me here is there may be a bounce factor for the Ravens after beating the crap out of San Francisco. But, ordinarily I'd just be all over Raven here.
If you can get a 3, I like the Ravens too. Both these teams coming off big wins against NFC teams, but we're asking Miami to go on the road. And, they've played 2 good playoff teams, 2 teams with a winning record on the road. And they got blown out in both of them. Got blown out at Buffalo, blown out at Philly. And now Waddle has a high ankle sprain. I can't imagine he's going to play. They haven't ruled him out. Receivers don't play with high ankle sprains. It just doesn't happen. And if the Dolphins have any interest in winning a game in the playoffs. They need him. I just think this game's going to be played in the 40s. Like, it's going to be chilly. I don't like this Dolphins team on the road. I don't like this offense when it's not in ideal elements. I've seen a lot of pushback. It seems like a lot of pros are on Miami here. I'm not. I think the Ravens are significantly better, and I would say the Ravens are probably 2.5 points better on a neutral. So if you can get 3 at home in Baltimore, I'll take the Ravens.
Raiders and Colts. The Raiders have been a better team since firing their coaching staff. We knew Josh McDaniels sucked. I don't know that we knew that he sucked that much. But these Colts are sneaky good. My problem is the number. It's 3.5.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like it should be Colts 3. And, I'd be tempted to take the Raiders at that, but I don't, it's just not enough.
I'm with you, but I'm not going to buy the Raiders at 3.5 either. Like,
right.
they're at the peak of the market. Like, they beat the shit out of the Chargers, and then they beat the Chiefs in Kansas City. But remember how they beat the Chiefs? 2 defensive touchdowns. I don't know. I tried to look this up. I can't find a way to find out for sure. The idea that the Raiders didn't complete a pass after the first quarter and still won the game outright, like, that has to be, I don't know when the last time that could have happened was. So listen, the Colts, they came down to earth last week. I think the Falcons made them one-dimensional, took away the run, and I don't think the Raiders defense can do that. I think the Raiders right now, the belief in them is phony. I think Indy's a clearly better team, but you're right. The number's enough to keep me off of it. 3.5, no thanks. But you cannot buy the Raiders coming off the last 2 wins. Like, you just can't.
No.
And if you take out that Chargers game where they were clearly playing a team that had quit and wanted their coach fired, if you look at the other 3 Aiden O'Connell games, I mean, he's worse than he's worse than Zach Wilson. He can't throw the ball at all. So I just can't back this Raiders team right now. I think that they look way better than they are. Their offense was pathetic again last week.
All right, Titans Texans we've already talked about. Panthers +6 at Jaguar.
I'd love to fade the Jags here. Obviously, there's question marks about Trevor Lawrence's availability, but he seems to always find a way to get out there. The problem is the Panthers have just been so much worse on the road than they've been at home. The Jags have felt like one of the worst teams in the league for the last month. And Bryce Young's coming off the best game of his career, which worries me that I'm buying high on Carolina and selling low on Jacksonville, which is the opposite of what I want to do. But with Bryce Young being competent for 2 weeks in a row, I'm not really looking to fade Carolina. Their defense is okay. If they can get a decent game out of Bryce Young, they can cover this number. But I think there's too many questions. I certainly also don't want to play Jacksonville and then they announce Trevor Lawrence is out and CJ Beathard is dog shit. So I can't find an angle on this game.
Arizona +10.5 against the Eagles, who a month ago we were talking about as maybe the best team in football.
Not me.
I know you were against them pretty much all year. Thought they were a little bit phony, but now they're starting to prove themselves to be a little bit phony.
Yeah. So the Eagles have won 2 games by double digits all season long, and that was in week 3 and week 7. When they've been favored by more than a touchdown this season, they are 0-2 ATS. They have not covered either of those games. Eagles had no answer for Tyrod Taylor in the second half of the Giants game last week. And the Cardinals stink on defense, don't get me wrong, but I think they're going to be able to put up some points here. And the Eagles defense, 0 sacks last week, playing against the most sacked team in the NFL. The Cardinals have done a lot better job avoiding negative plays since Kyler came back. Arizona's got an extra day of rest. Catching double digits, I'll take Arizona. Arizona's a team. Home field doesn't matter much to Arizona. Their home field is negligible because they're not very good at home, which means like you don't give them a big edge and you don't give them a big knock when they're away from home. So I like Arizona here catching double digits. I just think Philly is like the 10th or 12th best team in the league. And the 10th or 12th best team in the league shouldn't lay double digits to anybody.
Rams minus 5.5 at the Giants. I think we've both been impressed with this Rams team down the stretch, but 5.5 in New York. I mean, Giants are not great, but
yeah. So I've been on the bandwagon for the Rams and the Browns, and honestly, the two teams that have probably made me the most money this year were the Rams and the Browns because nobody wanted to be on them early. And I've been riding them, and it's worked out. I don't know when the market catches up to the Rams and bucks me, but I don't think it's here.
I agree.
I don't know that I'm gonna lay the 5.5 on the road, but I am gonna play the Rams team total. Yeah. The Giants are bad on defense everywhere, but particularly against the run. And the thing with the Rams now is the first thing you do, can their opponent stop the run? Because Kyren Williams is an absolute stud. Like he's not getting any love because there's guys like Christian McCaffrey out there, but Kyren Williams is one of the most, like, one of the big breakout stars of this season, in my opinion. And since they traded Cam Akers, made him the feature back, he's averaging 106 yards per game. Matt Stafford, 4th in QBR. This is an elite offense. They've got 3 wide receivers who can beat you. The Giants in the secondary are wasted. And everybody's talking about the Rams being in a bad spot because they've got the Niners on deck. But it's not like the Rams are playing for the division.
No.
The Niners actually might be sitting guys next week. I don't think this is a bad spot for the Rams. I think the Rams, if they get to 9 wins here, it's going to be tough for them not to make the playoffs. I think they're focused. I think we see a good performance from this offense against a banged up and really just bad Giants defense. I think the Rams put up a big number here.
Yeah, I've been riding the Rams with you all year. I love that play. San Francisco and Washington, 49ers 13-point favorites coming off the ass whipping to the Ravens.
Yeah. God, the 49ers. I think, like, people think, oh, wow, they got exposed. I don't think so. I still think this is the best team in the league. And I'd still make them a point better on a neutral than the Ravens. Now, that could change. The Ravens dominated that game, but I can only adjust so much based on one data point. But the Niners defense isn't as strong as I thought it was a month ago. But I don't think the Commanders can do much to take advantage of it. They have been just handled by the better teams in the league. Since they traded away those 2 pass rushers, they're 1-5-1 ATS as dogs of more than a field goal. And you have to imagine the Niners just have a bad taste in their mouth. They want to get right. They are on short rest, which may keep me off this. I might look at a Niners team total over. But Washington's dead. Like that. I mean, remember 4 or 5 weeks ago, Sam Howell was the guy. Like, they had found a quarterback, and Sam Howell was going to be the guy. Now he's benched, and he's never going to be the guy because you don't. Right. If he's ever going to be the guy, you let him play it out, and you don't play Jacoby Brissett. I think this Washington team is rolled over. They know their coach is fired in 2 weeks. San Francisco or pass, but I'll probably just back the Niners offense here.
I'm glad to see our old guy Brisket back. Saints plus 2.5 at Tampa.
This is tough. I liked the Saints more at 3 because I thought the Bucs being a 3-point favorite over basically anyone was crazy. But I think I've got these teams power rated exactly the same. So to me, if you give, I don't think you can give 2.5 points to Tampa for home field in division. So I think there's some value on the Saints. My problem is I've got no appetite to bet the Saints.
Yeah.
They're incredibly erratic. Their coach is a fucking moron.
Oh yeah.
It's hard to trust him, but also Baker as a favorite, 13-25 ATS in his career as a favorite. He does not cover as a favorite. Saints are eliminated with a loss. And if the Bucs lose, they can beat the Panthers next week and they still win the division. So I feel like the Saints have a little bit of an edge, but I'm just not interested in backing them unless I could get a full 3.
Steelers, a team we were both on last week against the Seahawks, getting 3.5 in Seattle. That hook scares me on this line either way.
Yeah, I'm going to play the under in this game. I think what we saw last week from Mason Rudolph is what we've seen a lot of times this season. We've seen a backup come in, have a big game, and then look like he's always looked, which is just not very good. And Mason Rudolph is not very good. There's a reason he was the third string quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who don't even have a good starting quarterback. And the Seahawks, they've been so lucky, man. They've won 2 straight games on touchdowns in the last minute of the game where they were outplayed in both those games. They can't run the ball as well as they were early in the season before the Walker injury. And I just think the Steelers defense is legit. I think what I will say about Seattle is where they are strong defensively is on the outsides. And the success that Pittsburgh had last week was throwing the ball to the outsides, where Cincinnati is very weak. I don't think Seattle, the way to beat them is throw over the middle. I don't think Mason Rudolph's allowed to throw over the middle. I really think they're like, hey, you can be the quarterback. Your job is to not give the game away. Do not turn the ball over. And if he starts throwing the ball over the middle, that's when you turn the ball over. So right. I don't think he's going to look to even take advantage of where they're weak. And Seattle, 25th in pass blocking. I think the Steelers pass rush is going to get after him. So I just think this has all the makings for an under. I think this is an ugly game. Seattle's defense better than Cincinnati's. And so I just think I'm fading what we saw out of Rudolph last week.
Bengals +7 against the Chiefs. The Chiefs are starting to become a bit of a concern here in that, I mean, sure. the defense has been really good all year, and the offense has been a little iffy, and now the defense is starting to get to be a little iffy.
Well, the defense sucks against the run, which I guess is good news if you're playing Cincinnati because they just don't run. They've got the second lowest run rate in the league, and Joe Mixon had 11 carries last week in a game where Jamar Chase didn't play. So if your best receiver's bent or hurt and you still don't run the ball, when are you going to run the ball? So Cincinnati's going to go into the strength of this defense. I just feel like, man, at some point the Chiefs have to get right. I mean, and it's getting old saying, oh, Patrick Mahomes isn't going to let that happen. But I don't know. I will say the Bengals got lit up by Mason Rudolph last week. And if Mason Rudolph lights you up, I can imagine Patrick Mahomes will have some success. I just don't like backing this Kansas City team to get margin. But if I'm going to do it, it would be after a week of hearing people talk about the Raiders or the Broncos having a chance to win the division and the Chiefs are no good. They're one and done in the playoffs. That's the time that I kind of want to back Kansas City.
Yeah.
So I could see this being a get right spot, but it's tough to play this either way, honestly.
Chargers at the Broncos. Broncos making a quarterback change, and I don't know what the Chargers are going to look like because if they come out with that, hey, new coach, new attitude thing, I could see them winning this game, but I don't feel strongly enough about it to play them.
I think that new coach, new attitude thing was last week, and they still lost. You could tell they fought hard, and they still were just they're not good enough, particularly without Justin Herbert. I think there's an overreaction here in the market to Russell Wilson getting benched. He hasn't been all that good this season, and Stidham has a little bit of juice. I could actually see the offense playing better this week against the dead Chargers D. So Broncos dominated the Chargers in LA a couple weeks ago, and that was with Justin Herbert starting. So they've still got something to play for. The Chargers are playing for nothing but a potential top 5 pick. I think the Broncos are the more motivated team. To me, a lot of this is what number you get. If you get a 3, I like Denver more than 3. I'm sitting it out, but I do think that there's been because this game was 6, and Russell Wilson down to Jarrett Stidham at this point, I don't think warrants that much of a move. So I think that the Broncos, there's showing some value on the Broncos. I think Russell Wilson, just kind of a side note, he's in a really good spot now because his contract for next season is fully guaranteed, which means he can go play for the league minimum somewhere next year. I don't know what it is. Let's say it's $2 million, and he's still going to make $47 million. It's just the $2 million comes from his new team. The $45 million comes from the Denver Broncos. So he can kind of pick and choose where he wants to go, try and find a place where he can win or a place where he can reestablish himself as a guy worth paying. I don't know if he is, but he actually makes out like a bandit in this case, in my opinion, because he'll get another contract. Like
Yeah.
after next year, he'll get another contract, but now he gets to find a better situation for him, still get paid top dollar, and try and get more money the next season. It ended up being a good deal for him.
All right, last one on the docket. Packers +1 at Minnesota. Essentially a pick 'em here. Your thoughts?
Yeah, Jaren Hall's going to start. I don't know that he can be a downgrade from Mullins. I mean, Mullins 6 picks and 2 starts. He's killed them, and he's the reason why they've lost. He's put up some good yards, but he just, you got to take care of the ball a little bit. But man, this Packers defense is so bad.
Yeah.
I'm shocked at how bad they are. And now they suspended Jair Alexander for the coin toss thing. I don't know how the locker room responds to that, but I just think that this is an ugly game for sure. I don't have a great feel one way or the other because Jaren Hall is such a mystery to me. But I've got no appetite to back the Packers here. And I've heard some people say, I'll play the Packers in a teaser. I think that's a terrible idea because their defense is bad enough that they could easily get blown out. So it's going to be a pass for me. I know it's the night game and everybody wants to have a little on it, but it's a stay away from me.
All right. Before we wrap things up, just a couple of TV updates. I know you're not much on TV right now because you're busy.
I've watched 3 episodes of Reacher from season 1, so I've started it up.
But okay, so you're on season 1. Season 2 is off to a great start, I have to tell you.
Okay.
The other thing that I've been watching, like the new season of Fargo came out, and it started off really good, but this last season wasn't quite the spaceship thing, but it was pretty close, this last episode. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to give it one more because I really do like the fact that John Hamm plays a perfect piece of shit. He's really good at it. And Jennifer Jason,
I could play that role.
Oh, yeah, it'd be natural for you, though. But Jennifer Jason Leigh is like an old billionaire bitch, and then Juno Temple plays the woman, and she gets more annoying with each episode. So I'm not quite ejecting, but I am saying I'm going to give it one more episode.
Okay.
So, but that's about all I've been on. I watched a bunch of old movies during the Christmas day before I got into football. So nothing sexy. I'm
digging Reacher. So I'll let you know if I keep being into it. But yeah, so far so good. I'm into this show.
I season 1 was great. So far, season 2 better. I'll just tell you that.
Okay, I like it.
So, all right, man. Well, have a great New Year's. Win some money this weekend, and we'll do this again next week, and we'll see where we are in terms of everybody winning. But kick ass on the NFL in our pool because I don't think you need much of a week to close that thing out.
I'm taking it down, baby. Taking it down for Team Blitz.
All right, man. Have a great one.
All right. Happy New Year, bud.
You too. Okay, guys. Thanks to all of you for showing up. I hope you guys got some good information there. We always love going back and forth on football. And the one thing I will say is I know people want some of the nonsense that we used to do. It'll be there. It's just right now during football, we're only doing one show a week, and people want the picks. They want the analysis, and so that's what we're doing. And it'll slow down a little bit when college football stops, and that's about to happen. But like next week, we won't have to go through all the bowl games again. So we'll add some fun stuff back, and mostly we'll just make fun of me because that's what you should do. All right, so. Thanks again to everybody. Love you guys. Appreciate you tuning into the Falconcast. And we will be back on Tuesday at Midtown Bar and Grill. And we'll have a host of guests. I haven't decided yet. Just depends on who's not still hungover from the New Year's Eve. So even on a day later. All right, guys. Till Tuesday, stay sportsy, go